It takes a little second. All right, here we go. And hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another around 30 minutes. And this is where I have a little get to know you kind of thing going on. And today I got another special guest. I always say special guest, but they are all special. I got Mr. Paul C. He is from Building Up to It. So how you doing, fella?
What's up? What's up? Hey there, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Glad that I appreciate you taking the time to reschedule because I know we've tried this a couple times and it didn't quite work out with little baby and everything like that for me. So I
Yeah.
appreciate your flexibility.
No, I tell everybody that I work on your schedule. I try to get anybody on that wants to, and I just say, hey, whenever you can get on, that's fine. I'll try to make time and everything. So that's good. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. You new father of you.
I'm glad to do it. Glad to be a part and glad to contribute to your ever growing library of content.
Yeah. So let me ask you about that. A new father. So how old? I know she's over 6 months, right? I think I saw the
She
6
turned
months.
9 months
9 months. Okay.
last week.
So are you still considered? I guess you are still considered a new father, but are you really a new father though?
It's I'm getting used to the routine, I'll say, but I think I'm
Okay.
gonna be a new father up until I have a second child, if we have a second child, because that's the only time
Yeah.
it's not new anymore, I guess.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, so have y'all talked about? I mean, I don't want to get into your personal business, but have y'all talked about having another little one?
Oh, no worries. It's certainly not off the table. We have talked about it, but as my wife will tell anybody, it's the birthing process is still a little fresh for her, so she doesn't want to go too far down that line yet.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see. I think we're both up for additional
Okay.
children, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting to that to going through that process, I'm
It's still
sure.
on, it's
So
still on the table. Just put it. It's still on the table. It ain't been pushed away or anything. It's still executive order or something like that. It's still ready to go.
exactly.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So I got to meet your wife finally at last year's TFCon. I met little one and everything. That was cool. So how is it being a father? We'll talk about that real quick.
It's one of those that, well, like everyone always says, once you become a parent, it's one of those that it'll change your life and all that kind of stuff, and it really is true. It does, and it's very cliche to say, but there's really no other way to say it. And for the better or for the worse, that depends on the person, of course, I suppose, and how much it changes your life. But it really does, and it's amazingly interesting how quickly things do change. And it's not like that. I certainly don't feel like I'm missing out on things that I used to do when I was childless or all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You almost immediately take a lot of pleasure in things that you never thought you would take pleasure in, or things that, like, the amount of pleasure that you would have gotten from doing something else when you were childless or single or whatever it is. You get that same level of joy from things that are super simple or just end up, like, would be considered low key by someone who doesn't have kids, but it's like, oh, look at that, she's set up, or look at that,
Yeah.
she's grabbing her own food, or whatever it might be, like little things like that. Or I don't mind, like, on New Year's or something like that, oh, baby's got to go to bed. We put her to bed around 7 o'clock or start the
Mhm.
process, so I can't stay out past midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. I still have
Okay.
as much fun, like, with the baby and getting the baby to sleep, and then hanging out on the couch
You
until
grow
I
up.
fall
You
asleep.
grow up and you become an adult. You grow up. And do you miss a lot of sleep? Do you miss that?
We've been very blessed and very fortunate that
Okay.
she slept through the night after about 6 weeks, which is very early for many babies. And so we've been able to kind of get a decent amount of sleep at a full clip for a very long time. And we joke that Sophie is the kind of baby that you have to make you go, you know what? I wouldn't mind another baby.
And then the
This
next
go
one is
pretty
going
well.
to be next one will be totally different. It'll be like,
Exactly. Yeah,
spawn of Satan. Like, oh my God, why do we have another kid?
exactly.
Um, say Josh Fisher says, hey, Josh, I thank you for jumping in. He said, wait till she takes her first steps. That
Yeah.
will be cool. And Mr. B Gates said, congratulations, you now have a special day called Father's Day. So, okay, well, let's get on with the questions. So, what do you collect? What is it that you are focused on mainly in your collections now?
It's hard to say. If I had to boil it down to general things and not spread across multiple lines, I like big super robot type things, and
Okay.
I like things that kind of have a puzzle aspect to it, I guess. So those are the things that I like the most. So that really boils down to things like for puzzle aspect, Transformers. That gets you the new Diaclone reboot, GoBots, Lego stuff, definitely, obviously. And then as far as kind of big super robot stuff, so I would even consider like the Diaclone stuff. Transformers are in that same realm, but things like Solo Chigoken and things like that I really do like. So the Japanese things there. And then I am still big on action figures too. So your Marvel Legends, your like that kind of stuff, figure art stuff. I tend to dabble there as well. And maybe in Legends it's not quite it's a little more than a dabbling, I'd say. But same with Star Wars Black. So I like getting representations of things that I enjoy and that I love in plastic form, in 3D form, I guess. So that's really what has trickled into, like, that's why I like Star Wars figure arts and Star Wars Black stuff. And then Marvel Legends I like. And then I love seeing kind of Lego's interpretation of Marvel things and Star Wars things. I think it has a whole new level of charm that they do, but that also it activates the puzzle aspect of things for me. So even things like building Gundam and stuff, I like to do that, and model kits, but I don't get to do that as frequently, only because now that we have a baby, and then because we've got cats that love to jump around everywhere, I try not to have sharp objects around and laying around as much as I used to. And because of the baby, I no longer have as much kind of horizontal space anymore. So I can't I don't have like a
you can't spread out
table and stuff. Exactly. Well, it used to be a lot of space. I now have to do like in a very small area with a baby on my lap or a cat on my lap or something like that.
Gabrielle said he likes your shelf of houses.
Thanks. Right now behind me is a lot of holiday stuff, and like the second and the first, I guess, bottom row and the middle row are a lot of holiday things. And then normally it's all full, just like the top row. Those are all the architecture ones. Normally they're all like that. But for the holidays, not for Christmas, because these were put up, I think, after Christmas officially. But they're the holiday sets. Brian
holiday-ish. Yeah, they look like holidays. Tyler, Snowflake, he said like that you dressed up for 30 minutes with me. Thank you very much. I'm not wearing pants, so it doesn't matter.
I'm keeping it classy. That's all.
Okay. So if you're collecting, do you see an ending to your collection? Have you always been a collector?
I've been a collector for a long time, and it has evolved, I'd say. But I've always liked buying and collecting kind of toys, just kind of from my childhood. But then it kind of transitioned into comic books and things like that. And a lot of the stuff that I collect now is kind of for that nostalgia stuff. So like the Marvel Legends X-Men stuff that they're putting out now is very much reminiscent of the 90s X-Men, and that was my jam at the time. So I like having that. So it's gone from the comics over into physical representations of those comic characters. I don't really see my collection ever, like my collecting ever stopping, but I certainly see it adjusting and moving to different things and kind of different formats, I guess. I'm not one that is actually going to go like I know that Joe KW and a lot of people, Bobby, all them say that quarter scale is the ultimate goal. Like that's where the evolution of a collector goes. I can firmly say that that's never going to be where I go, but going to that higher end, going to that, like the nicer stuff, certainly I see that, and I've already started doing that. Not at the expense of, but I've started to adjust my collecting to. I've started to sell off some stuff in order to fund other things, in order so that I could get kind of. For me, the Solid Shigoken stuff is really the stuff that I really like, because it's a high level of die cast, really good paint, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm very specific as to which ones I collect there too, even. Like I mentioned, I like the puzzle aspect of things. So I've my kind of short list, and most of my goals are to get all of the Solo Shigoken combiners and kind of transformers there. So they have some that are just giant super robots, which are very nicely done, but those don't, to me, they don't feel like they warrant the price tag. But you get something like a big combiner, like your like the Voltron. Everyone's familiar with the SOC Voltron, something like that. You can really see where the money goes into, because you can see the quality in all the individual pieces, and then when you get them all put together, they still look great. That's the kind of stuff that I do love, and I have kind of started to go more that direction. But more, it's not that I stopped collecting retail stuff, because I still love me some Chugs, and I still love me some powder primes and siege and all that kind of stuff, and it's just a different part of the collection, really, because that's the stuff that I like to play with and probably get the most constant enjoyment out of, because I can mess with those on a regular basis, as opposed to like some of the SOC stuff, because it's nicer, and this isn't even talking like Kuma Styles collection with like all the Sentinel stuff and all that. That's like super high end. That is great, and he's really good about still messing with them and playing with them and all that, and getting the poses and then putting on the shelf and then still messing with them. I'd be nervous to mess with something that cost me like $600-$800. So I think SOC is kind of that price level is kind of where I tap out on like single pieces or kind of sets of things, only because like that's the point where I'd be okay still messing with something if it costs $250-$300. It's at the higher end of me being able to like take it down and mess with it and play with it still and all that kind of stuff. If it were like $1,000 piece, I'd be like, nope, I don't want to break it. I want to leave it there. And then even though I like looking at it on a shelf, it's not quite what I go for with my collection. I like the interaction and interactivity of it.
You like to fiddle around with your stuff.
I do. Like I very much still play with my toys, and that's kind of why I love Chug stuff still. And I know that most of the realm, the ROC, and most of that are part of the community has kind of evolved upwards, and I still have a lot of MP stuff, and I love the MP stuff. But many people will say that it's so that they can get a great looking display, and you get a good adult looking display for things that you loved as a child, and that's awesome. But for me, I still like messing with them. So there's always going to be that aspect of it, which is again why I always like there to be a puzzle or something to play with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Is you're saying a lot of people are leaning towards the higher end displays and everything, but we all started going into this playing with stuff. I don't, and so to speak, but I'm just saying playing with your robots and everything. So I think that's why a lot of people still collect Chug. A lot of people say Chug's dead and everything, but it's not. People like to get their stuff down and mess around with it. And that's why you got into it in the first place. I think that's not saying for everybody, not speaking for everybody, but I think a lot of the collectors got into it because you like to mess with your Transformers.
That's the thing, and that's why like when you were on SC, whenever you're on SCU and all that, and you were kind of the first one that I related to the most, because obviously everyone else has kind of quote unquote evolved out of the regular retail stuff, and it ends up being the joke that like, oh, what is this garbage? Let's see what Hasbro's got coming up next year. But you always have the appreciation for it, as do I, and I can appreciate it from a different standpoint. I 100% agree that retail stuff is not as well done as a third party.
No, it's not.
Or whatever.
You're paying $20, 15, $20.
That's exactly
when I do reviews of those, I don't consider them masterpiece figures. I don't, put them on the same level. But I do appreciate what they are for what they are. They're fun toys, and everything. They may some of them be cheap and everything, but like you said, you appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think like the nerd out guys are good at kind of bringing that stuff up there. They in addition to a nice high end piece or whatever, like they like to beat their shit up so that they like to really get a good experience with it. They like to be able to beat their stuff up and see if it still holds up, because that really is one of the things that they look at to a quality piece in their collection. So they like being able to beat up stuff. So they like your Titans Return stuff, and I do too. And Combiner Wars, I actually really enjoyed the Combiner Wars line up until they kind of got those little line fatigue with that towards the end, but I love those combiners, man. Like I still think they're Superion.
Superion was really good. Verticus. I like Superion and Verticus. Now, Minosaur and Defensor was, you rang. They were kind of fugly, but I still have Superion and Verticus, and I think they're really good combiners.
Yeah, and like I will fully admit that there are better Bruticus combiners out there, all that kind of stuff. But like when I have like my nephews come over, or we had
you don't want them messing with their Zeta toys.
Exactly, like that. The Playmates Voltron sets, like for the Netflix Voltron and all that. Like that's the stuff I'll gladly give them. They're playing around with them, and they're playing like I used to play, like on the ground and making just scenarios in their head and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't do that with this Ultra Goken or the Icarus toys one. That one stays on the shelf.
That's true. So are you cherry picking stuff? Do you have to be a completist? Or do you just cherry pick what you like?
It is. I have a little. I call it the collector's OCD, where like I can't. I feel really bad. Like to. I always have that FOMO where I'm like, oh man, if I'm gonna want two of these pieces later, I'm gonna feel bad if I don't have the whole line. But I have started to, because I'm collect so much now, and it's one of those things that the double-edged sword of making more money and having more disposable income is that you can buy whatever you want, but then you'll suddenly be buying everything if you stick with that same kind of gotta get them all kind of stuff. So I've started to, at this point, just cherry pick things and just get the stuff that I like. So I don't, and in general, I try to do like one really good representation of the characters. And maybe that'll like doesn't count from scale to scale. So like I'm fine with a Legend Starscream, or and then a Deluxe Star, or a Chug Starscream, and then like an MP, like all that stuff. I don't really count that, but I don't necessarily need like 3 or 4 different versions of. Again, I'm using Starscream just because it's you. Like I don't need the Powder Prime Starscream and then the classic Starscream. Yeah, no kidding. and stuff like that. I've got no problem now just kind of cherry picking and then just getting the ones that I know that I want. So like I didn't need using, I think, Titans Returns again. They had the pre-paint was like the Megatron was turned into the Blitzwing. And like those, I just went straight for the Blitzwing. I didn't get the Megatron one because I didn't need that one. Even though it was the engineering and the toy was cool, I was good with just the Blitzwing because I knew that's the one that I wanted.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I was good kind of doing that with it, but my collection is still very, very large.
Yeah. Speaking of Nerd Out, I'm trying to get Nerd Out on here. I think I'm supposed to get back with them and try to get them on this weekend, but hopefully next weekend I can get them on.
So I think Randy would certainly love to be on the show, and he's I'm sure Brian would too, but I know his schedule's a little harder to lock down. But
their schedule I was supposed to have them on last weekend, but they one of them had some issues and everything. So I'm supposed to try to get back with them this week, and I didn't. That was my fault. But hopefully I'll try to get them on very soon. I think it'd be really cool. I met them both at TFCon, and they're really nice guys and everything. And I love watching their stuff, so I would love to get them on here to have a little 30 minutes with them and everything. So that would be pretty cool. So who is your favorite character? And why? I mean, you can go Transformers. You can do whichever line you want to do.
Man, I didn't even think about this one. Let's see. I would have to say my favorite character from the cartoon was from the G1 Transformers cartoon, probably Wheeljack.
Okay.
Just because I loved that his design was the most different from everybody else, at least in my head at the time. They were all relatively different. Exactly. His was definitely like out of left field, and I liked his light up.
His light up sidebars, whatever.
That seemed really cool. And I'd say my favorite G1 toy, probably Perceptor, just because it was probably the first one that I remember physically getting as a gift. And then I got it for Christmas, and then it broke. I broke it like before Christmas was over, and then my parents were going to try to return it, and they didn't have to exchange it for another one, and they didn't have it anymore. So then I got something else, and so there was always that like, oh man, I never really got that. Even though he's probably the one that no one liked because he's boring as a microscope and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. I thought he was cool. And then if you go into like, let's say the comic lore, like in IDW, I'd say I like all what they did with the mini bots. So I think that that Tailgate and Swerve were awesome. But maybe Cyclonus might have been my favorite. Just the way that they wrote Cyclonus in the IDW comics was great. And then if we talk Transformers Prime, so those are the main fictions of Transformers that I was into. I didn't really do the Armada series or the Unicron trilogy and all that. Yeah. But I'd say in Prime, I would have to say, who did I like the most in Prime? Maybe Wheeljack again? Maybe? Maybe Ultra Magnet? No, you know what? I would have to say actually Starscream. The way that they wrote him, I think, is really, really well done. And it kind of made him, it changed him from like kind of your more bumbling kind of lackey in G1, even though he was trying to always be to promote himself to leader all the time. There was kind of the joke of it was that he was doing that. I think they made him much more menacing in Prime. And I think
was gonna say menacing. Like he was more like in G1, you would think, you knew he wanted to take over, but you don't think he would ever try that hard. Like he really
Yeah.
didn't try that hard. But with
He was
Prime,
always out of opportunities. Like, oh,
yeah. But with
Megatron fell down the
Prime,
stairs. I Starscream, I'm your new leader, or whatever. It's always something
with
like
Prime,
that.
I think he would have actually, I think he was trying really to take out Megatron.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think he certainly, depending on the point of view, like he certainly could have, or under the right circumstances, he would have. He certainly could have, because he had his Beacon Seeker army and all that kind of stuff. Like that dude was a badass in Prime, and I love it.
He tripped down the stairs. I am the leader of the and that, you know what? That's so true. Anything. I mean, if he would have like farted wrong or something, I'm the leader of the so yeah, he's more kind of a goofy kind of everything. But they brought that with Prime. They brought back that the interaction with Starscream and Megatron. And then I always say this. That's one of my favorite parts. Those two is their interactions with them.
Yeah, for sure. I think, to be honest, I think Prime might be my favorite cartoon fiction. G1 obviously holds a special place in my heart, but I think it's one of the best ones. Like Prime really got they got nuance in the character. They were just, again, 80s
characters.
Yeah, 80s.
Everybody's gonna love G1. Everybody's gonna, but it was kind of it was a commercial, and it was kind of crappy most of the time. But it's always going to hold. But I think, Prime was really good. And I think Beast Wars, as far as storylines, was really good.
Beast Wars was good. That's one where I haven't really gone back, and I want to, but just haven't had the time to really go back. I watched it when it was out, and I didn't even watch it all the way through, or not. I shouldn't say it, sequentially from start to finish at the time.
You took different.
I watched it as it was on TV, and it was just one of those things that I really did enjoy. But it was one of those that. I don't have an issue with it like Bobby does or anything like that, or like some people do.
You don't have to. I mean, people like it. Yeah. Just because Bobby don't like it, don't mean everybody else can't like it. Come on. But Galvatron said he just rewatched Animated. Animated was really good too. I like it. It was more of a childish, but little kiddie, but it was still good. I love Animated.
They did good stuff with it. That was one of the ones that was, I think, more deceptively kiddie, like they or maybe deceptively adult is a better way to term it. But it looked really kiddie, but had some deeper stuff for the adults, which I thought was good, and they told that line well. And I didn't know that until afterwards. Like I bought them all on DVD later after the show was already over. Like when it came out, I was out of Transformers at that time. In Lego, we would call that like the dark ages, where you just get out of it, and you can eventually get back in. That was kind of during my dark ages there at with Transformers.
That's cool. So, what is your favorite line to collect?
It's hard to say. I'd say maybe the Diaclone reboot at the moment. Really? I think it's just overall, it's not. The pieces are expensive, but they don't have a ton of them, which works out well for me because
it works out for the wallet, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. But they have it's really like everything that I want in one toy line. And again, I bring up Nerd Out again because the Nerd Out guys, Mark 44 Prime, Brink, they're the ones that are also in on that line. So they're the few that know where I'm coming from when I say it's kind of a combination of all the things that I love, all in one. So you get the Transformer aspect because they can convert from one form into another. You get kind of the puzzle aspect, like with Lego. All the pieces are modulars. They can separate out and then you can combine them in whatever way that you want, and that's cool. And then they got little drivers, just like back in the day. It was a little Diaclone driver that goes in, and there's a cockpit that they all go in, so they're piloting mechs, and I love mechs. So it really combines all of that shit together. But also, what I really do like is that it when I play with those again, I play with all my stuff. It harkens back to when I was a child because there's no established fiction, so you're really creating your own stuff.
Imagination. Yeah.
Exactly. So very much like I know a lot of people didn't like when Titans Returns made so many things that like had a base mode and all that kind of stuff, and like why they all had masters and all that kind of stuff. But what you could do then, you then make your own fiction with it. The headmasters are people that go around, and I love that. That's why I really love Titans Returns amongst that kind of Prime Wars trilogy thing. Like it was great, just the playability of it, and it didn't bother me that. Why is this guy a headmaster? He's not a headmaster in the G1. It didn't bother me in the least because we're now how many years past G1? I collect classics or chug stuff because I like the modernized versions or interpretations of the things that I had loved as a kid. I don't need them to look the same. I like the cooler looking stuff. So I'm
Exactly.
totally good with that, and I really enjoyed that part of it. And so again, the playability aspect of it is what I like the most, and really
Yep.
why I like the Diaclone stuff too is because it's that like ratcheted up like 2 or 3 levels, because the hyper detail on those, and the fact that like literally all the pieces are interchangeable all throughout the line, and you can make your own big mech robot. You can change it around, make a big ass tank. You can do like anything you want, you can do, and it really encourages that. And I don't know if that's because of the no fiction or just because of the line itself, but the
Yeah.
combination of the two really makes you come up with your own stuff, and I like that a lot.
That's an excellent point. I mean, and I think Tyrant Returns and Siege go together really well because it's just the playability. This is the fun. You get so many options, and I think options are I always say that during the stuff is that the more options you have for Transformers, I think the better.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that even though again the ROC, even though even though the ROC runs deep, right? So and we have a lot of people in the realm. I think that we sometimes forget that we are still a very small portion of the overall fandom. Like even though we're always together, and so it seems like we're taking over, and we certainly are getting much bigger,
Yeah,
starting
yeah,
to take over. But the fact that a lot of like most of us or the vocal ones in the ROC are the ones that are like Chug is dead. It's all about the masterpiece, and then eventually MP is going to be done, and it's all going to be about the statues and your flame toys, which is great, an amazing evolution that is certainly valid. But I think that
yeah,
people forget that like these aren't like there's a whole huge population that has no idea about any of that stuff, nor would they ever consider like why would I spend $400 on Flame Toys Tarn or whatever, because like we can preach the glory of that toy and the paint and then the joints and then the build and all that kind of stuff, but like they don't want that. Like no one's the people that are willing to spend $400 on a toy are very very small.
yeah.
And I've had to kind of
That's me. I'm sorry.
when you're immersed in it, like it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, like, and then my spending has ratcheted up slowly and slowly to the fact that I'm okay with spending something like that. But
Yeah.
like most people would never think to spend that much money on something that is very obviously a toy, even if it is a great display piece. They'd be like,
Yeah.
it's frivolous. I'm not going to spend that on there. Like
Yeah.
I
It
can spend
doesn't
$400 on
transform.
a lot.
It doesn't
Yeah.
transform, so I don't need it.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I said, I bought the two Flames toys, and they're beautiful. They're wonderful and everything, but I can understand why people would not want it at all.
Yeah,
Either.
like I'm not in on the flame toy stuff, even though I 100% agree they're amazing pieces.
Mhm.
But for me, again, if I want a great representation of the thing that I love, my Transformers have to transform. And it's not that I'm like I get
That's fine.
that,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
because if they did that level of quality, and they do, Sentinel does amazing work, and I've had Sentinel pieces, but like let's say the Sentinel Iron Giant figure, I'm good with
Mhm.
that because he's on a transformer. He's not supposed to transform. Like I don't want a super high end but amazing but really expensive version of just one of the things that is to kind of make that makes that character that character. So I need my Transformers to have an alt mode, and that's why I wasn't in the Action Masters and stuff like that. But
So
I get why people do.
let me ask a question: if they started making alt modes, what would you do?
Like just the alt mode, so like a model car.
Yeah, you can have the alt mode or the bot mode.
I wouldn't do that either. So
Yeah.
I'm also
We
like,
talk about that on Terracast. Like, what if they started making alt modes for this stuff?
I
Ugh.
get it, and I'm cool with it, but I'm also not one that displays one in bot and one in alt. I'm not. That's not me. I like.
You don't
I
take
I
the
like.
approach.
Yeah, I need it there. Exactly. I'm not, and it's cool that people do, but I think just because he even said like if they did that, he would do that, and then he would just scrap all the actual transforming ones.
Mhm.
And I totally get that. But for me, what makes them Transformers is if they transform. I don't want the representation of both at the same time. I want to like, oh yeah, and it's also turned into a car. 5 minutes later,
You want the playability. You want the
here's
playability.
that car, yeah. Or like 10 minutes later, here's Masterpiece Megatron or something
Yeah,
like that.
gotcha. Yeah, I got you. So let's move on to so you are married. So does your wife collect anything? Is she a hoarder like us?
Not quite to my level by any means, but she also is a big Lego fan, and so that was
Okay, nice.
yeah. So that has certainly helped me to be able to buy stuff like the Lego
Yeah.
Voltron and stuff like that. But like
Cool.
she's really like all these holiday sets are hers.
Okay.
Hers in quotes, but like those are the ones that she bought because she really wanted, and she wants to build those. And then all the architecture ones up top were ones that I initially liked as well, but she really likes the architecture line, and so there are certain lines that she loves that she really enjoys and loves. So that helps me out, and she understands why I might like to collect all these things. Her I'll call it like illness is not the level of mine where I have like all those blind bag minifigures from series 1 all the way through, and then I want all the Marvel minifigures and all the DC minifigures, like all those kind of things. She I think she more tolerates that than enjoys that. But she's also one of those that, like, as long as if we can get those up on a display, so I've got all my minifigures like up on racks on my walls, so it's just all of them like kind of displayed properly and nicely, like then she's cool with it. Like if I had them all in a box, I think she wouldn't like that. But the fact that they've all got all their accessories and they're all in their place, I think she's cool with that. Which is in stark contrast to Bricks, who if you listen to many of our more recent episodes of building up to it, he's like, that's not the essence of Lego, is that you can do whatever you want with it, which I totally agree with. Like you can mix and match, and yes, you can, and I do that with a lot of my other stuff. But those specific ones, like I want to have a Lego Star-Lord. I get that I can army build other people that have the leather jacket and then different colored pants and then a different like I get I can do that, and I've done that with others, but I want a Star-Lord, so he's gonna stay as Star-Lord.
Exactly. So speaking of building up to it, how did that start? I mean, how did y'all get together and everything? Be like, we need to start a Lego podcast.
Well, I think for most people that do know Bricks, which is most people on the East Coast, really, they all know that he's diehard Lego, and he's been in the Lego lifestyle for a long time. He's got a Lego resale shop and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is something that I think Bobby may have started talking to him about that maybe at an NJC or something like that. He's like, you should do like a Lego show. And then I think that he knew that Iron Claw liked Transformers. He knew that Matt liked Transformers, or sorry, Lego. And then I'm pretty sure someone probably told him that I like Lego. And I think that it ended up being that like we started chatting and just kind of discussing it. And then we realized that we all three of us have different viewpoints on Lego and how to collect Lego. No one's is wrong, with their very different viewpoints. And I think because all three of us have a different like look on it, I think we were able to kind of have a good show where we can each give our opinions, and then people can all get something and maybe learn someone else's opinion. For me, what I really wanted to do is like I was fascinated to see how someone who's a Lego retailer like Bricks looks at Lego versus someone like me that likes to collect Lego, and I like to build, and I build by instruction, and I'm good at that because I like, even though you don't need, like, I can build anything I want with it. Bricks is all about, he doesn't like that people build by instruction and then just leave it like that. So the way that I do it is that
he likes the playability effect, I guess.
Exactly. And I fully acknowledge 100% that the way that I do it is as intended, but it goes so much deeper. I can do so much more, and I would if I had more time. I'm good with buying all the ones that are for that specific model and design, and then leaving it like that, just because for me it's like building Lego is a stress reliever. So building Lego, building Gundam, putting on repro labels, things like that. I like the mindlessness of, like, things are so busy and the bustle is there. I like to be able to just, I'll follow the directions and I'll put this together and it'll be great. And I'll enjoy looking at it, and then I'll play around with the minifigures when I'm done. I fully acknowledge that I'm only tapping like a third of what that set can do. I can turn any set that I have into a big mech if I wanted to, but I just haven't. And I just don't. Down the line, maybe I will someday, but that won't be anytime soon, just because I don't have the time to go past that. I already still have a bunch of sets that are still in boxes that I just haven't gotten around to building yet, that I do definitely plan on building. But I just haven't gotten there yet.
So, let me ask you this question, because I got stuff in boxes and everything that I haven't opened up yet. I still got to review and stuff. So do you think it is, do you think we are, because we're just the thrill of the hunt, or do we actually look forward to, or do you actually look forward to the Transformer stuff, or it's just something that I have to get this because I may not be able to get it down the line, or is it,
there is,
you don't quite understand what I'm saying,
I do. So that FOMO does go into it a bit, I'll have to say. Like, it's there's part of it is that, like, oh man, what if I can't get this later, or what if, of course, it's going to shoot up in price or whatever. So part of that does go into it, and then I get that hesitation, but in general, certainly with something retail. I don't really pre-order anything retail. I like the hunt is valuable to me. I get more enjoyment out of that figure when I had to hunt for it and I found it. Yes, I got it, and I tear it open in my car, or I bring it to my office and I'm playing with it at my desk at work, or something like that. I like that toy that much more because I finally found it. And even though I like being able to pre-order a wave of whatever, or getting something in the mail and it's easy, I have found that I like those are the ones that tend to stick in the box for me longer. I open everything. I don't keep anything in box ever, like fully. But it's one of those that if I get a whole wave of that, I don't know. Let's say I get the whole wave of yeah, exactly, or like a Marvel Legends wave, like the Sauron Bath wave, or the Apocalypse Bath wave. Like if I get the whole thing, I'm glad. Yeah, I got them all. I didn't have to hunt around everywhere. But then like they'll sit in the boxes much longer than it would be if I got them individually. I'll crack open the Psylocke and I'll have the Apocalypse leg, and I'll be like, look around, and then sweet, there's the Apocalypse body on. I think it was Storm, let's say, whatever. So then I'll like snap the bath leg on it, and then like it'll just have no head and no arms, but I'll be anticipating getting the other pieces. And doing that, it keeps me kind of more grounded, I guess. It keeps me more into the playing aspect of it as opposed to just collecting it. And for me, that's like if I ever stop playing with it, it loses a lot of the purity of it. Like they're toys first and foremost, so I want to make sure that I always have that going, and that like if it goes past that, then it's more than what that is. And then I don't know if it's gonna hold the same thing for me to collect it just to collect it. I always still want to be able to play with it. So like it's real hard for Legends. As you know, I'm big into Legends too, and I have been for about as long as you and Robert D and all that have. So you know how it is. In the beginning, there weren't a lot of them, and so it was cool to be able to get them, and then you can play with them, and it's cool.
Now
but
there's
suddenly everyone's coming out with them, and like you get like
Legends War.
Iron Factory Magic Square. They come out with like 80 at a time, and then like it's like I haven't even had time to really.
I didn't know stuff was coming out, like the new recolor of the Twin Cat and the Artfire. I jumped on them real quick, but I didn't know they didn't coming out.
I didn't either. I really want that Artfire pretty bad. I don't have a tie to Twin Cast, but I love cassettes, even if they're tiny. So I'm gonna want him too. I know, but it's one of those that like I can't digest them because so many come out, and then I don't quite appreciate it as well as I should. So I have to try to like take the time to kind of and the baby. But it's one of those that like I have to almost force myself to don't open them all up at once. Like sit there, and I think it was Robert D once. Someone put a question to SCU that he was collecting all these MP toys because like before he was moving, so like he had just boxes, like all of them, the whole line that he hadn't played with yet. I think it was Robert D had a great point that he said like just open them one at a time, take a week with each of them so they really understand what makes this toy great. And then you actually then get to enjoy that. If you open them all at once, you really just open them, transform them once, and throw them on a shelf, and then that's it. And then you lose what I
used to do that.
The thing for me is again it's playing with them. So it's you lose a lot of that, and then for me, if that were me, it would almost be a waste of that toy. So I try to go slowly with them. Like I've got a big haul coming from GCI Toys.
Nice.
It's been a collection of things that came in like over maybe the past like 6 months or so. I was waiting on one like the MC Ravage and MMC Frenzy and Rumble that like I was supposed to get, and then he sent out that shipment then, and then like that one didn't make it in, and then at the time like they sold out, and then like I was just like, okay, all my next stuff will just compile until they come out again. And then they finally came out again, but there's other stuff that's like right down the road. I'm like, okay, well, we'll put all those in. And then so they just kept kind of getting compiling bigger and bigger. I'm worried that this one's going to be like so big that I'm not going to be able to enjoy it, but I will have to force myself, again, forcing quotes, to just enjoy one at a time, at least a day or two with each, and then go. Even though I'm going to want to crack them all open at once, I want to be smart about it and make sure that I get the enjoyment that I should out of each of them. And like,
well, I'm sorry, go. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, speaking of the toy hunt, I think a lot of people get get a little high off that the shipping notice, like it's out for out for delivery.
It's true.
I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are waiting by their they're looking at their tracking number, and they're not just like going on a toy hunt, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. That anticipation is there. Like I certainly have the USPS app where I track it, and then I've even signed up for informed delivery. And I got that from TJ from Kuma Style, where like they'll make sure that they scan all the mail that's coming in, so you know exactly what's supposed to be coming, and it's supposed to be for security, but really it's more for my anticipation. Like, oh, there it is. It's coming. I can see where it's at. Or
in West Virginia. Why is it in West Virginia? I always see that on people on Facebook always post like, I live in New Jersey or wherever, Arkansas. Why is my package in New Jersey, but it's on the other side of New Jersey or something? Or I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I don't really get that. My stuff usually comes here, unharmed or anything, and usually on time. I've had some hiccups here and there, but I've seen a lot of horror stories where they're just like their stuff is like it came to my city, but then it went to the next state, and then it came back. I'm just like, I don't know.
I've had that happen a couple times. That's kind of what Pinkerton calls the pace yourself shipping, where like like it's almost like they said, oh yeah, we this is only guaranteed in within 2 weeks, so it'll sit somewhere for like a good week until it hits that 2-week mark, which thankfully doesn't happen frequently, but it has happened to me a couple times, and it is frustrating. But again, they're just toys. Like I'm not really going to complain, because again, I have a bunch of toys that I haven't really enjoyed to the level I probably should have yet before getting something new that I try to make sure that I can really take a step back still and get it going, and I'm fine. It really is not a big deal that I have to wait another 4 days for this toy to come in. It's fine.
Okay, so if once again, if you could have one last meal, I don't want anything to happen bad to you or anything, but if you could have one last meal, what would that be?
Oh, see, this is a tough one too, because my wife and I, my whole family, we're big foodies, so we have some high end appreciations of things. But if I'm being honest, dude, I want a good pizza. So I want it's gonna be a specific like one in Chicago, Lou Malnati's sausage garlic on their butter crust pizza would probably be the one that, like, you know what, if I'm going out, I want this one, just because like it's not hard to get, but man, do I love it that much that it's a real good one. And I know Spiros knows the glory of the Lou Malnati's, and Mark 44 Prime, or Leon knows that, and he brought they're Nerd Out guys to a Lou Malnati's. So certain people know, and the ones that know will understand. But that's the one. Even though like I've gone to gourmet places and gone to some high end stuff and all that kind of stuff, which was amazing and a great experience. But if I'm going out, I want that pizza before I go.
We had me and my wife and the Robert D's family went out. I forgot the name of the restaurant we went to, but we got this Meat Lovers pizza from Chicago, deep dish and everything. It was so much. I mean, it was just
it's a different beast. You have to know that going in. And I remember after TFCon, was it 16? Was it the first time it was in Chicago? And the first time I met all the ROC guys.
Yep.
And I guess it was the second time in Chicago, but the first time that I met all the ROC guys there. And they got a bunch of Giordano's pizza brought in. And I was hearing some people talk about how they put down like 4 or 5 pieces, and I'm like, holy shit, that's not going to be good for them tomorrow. And then only like years later do I hear about like the horror stories about how they were like on the shitter like all the next day and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's people who assume it's like regular pizza. It's not. Like, it's 2 pieces max. Or you'll be out for all weekend.
That was, oh man, Robert, we ordered it, and I just like, when we got it, I was like, oh my God, that is huge. There's just so much meat, so much cheese. It was good. It was really good. I wish it was down. I don't know what. I forgot the name of the restaurant it was, but it was downtown somewhere. Oh, it was good. But yeah. So, so what is your favorite cereal? Do you like cereal? No.
I do like cereal, and there's kind of there's 2 ways to do it. If I'm gonna go about like the kids cereal versus like my favorite as an adult are different. But I say kids cereal is gonna have to probably be just straight up Frosted Flakes,
really?
or cinnamon toast crunch.
Okay.
The more adult ones version, I do like Honey Bunches of Oats. Like those are good cereals. but it's so different. It's funny to like to contrast those two because like pretty much the most is like a good dense bite of like different textures and all that kind of stuff. But man, sometimes you just want some Frosted Flakes, and that shit is just fucking delicious.
I understand. I like for adult, I like Raisin Bran. For kids, I love. There's a new one called Fruit Loop. It's got Fruit Loops and like Lucky Charms, like marshmallows. So it's Fruit Loops and marshmallows.
That's some dangerous shit. Like my wife loves, she loves Lucky Charms for the marshmallows and all that. So I've bought her like you can get like on Amazon just the bag of the. I think they're officially called cereal marshmallows, but they're the Lucky Charms marshmallows. Many times I bought her those bags for Christmas or whatever as like a supplemental gift. She loves them and she'll just sit and eat them like chips.
Yeah,
which I can't do. I need them to be softened a little bit, but she likes them just crunchy.
Whatever. If she's happy, then you're happy.
That's right. Happy wife, happy life. If that's what it takes to allow me to keep buying all this shit, I'm good. It's well worth it.
So what is your favorite movie of all time? What is it? Something that you could watch? You could sit down and watch and not even blink about it and just think, this is awesome.
It's funny, actually. I've got a bunch of questions for you as well that I was gonna go. But that's one of them. So I'm glad you asked this one. It's hard. I watch a lot of movies and I have a lot of DVDs, so I tend to go by genre in general. So favorite like sci-fi kind of action is gonna be Star Wars, and then favorite like comedy is action, whatever. If I'm gonna have to go to boil down to just one, it might be Princess Bride. Might be my favorite of all time.
Okay.
Just because it kind of has a good melding of all that, and I just love it, and it's one of those that my wife hasn't watched, but I'm scared to like let's watch it together because I'm going to be really tempted to quote all the lines, which is going to ruin it for her, and then I'm sure I built it up so much that she's like,
yeah, it should be like,
and like so many people, like my whole family loves it, and then like all the people I know, like just. I think it's is it Jason Y in the ROC like that also loves like so many people love it that you wouldn't think would love it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, look, all these people like it, but I'm now that so many people love it that I'm hesitant to like say we should watch it now.
Maybe like and people watch be like, it was right.
Exactly. And that would probably crush me more than the fact that she hasn't watched it now. So if she gets around to it, then great. But I'm not going to push it on her. I won't force it. Also, another great one is Shaolin Soccer. If anyone hasn't seen that, if you're good with watching subtitles, it's a hilarious and amazing, funny, great action and movie that I think everyone should watch. It's great.
Yeah, that's cool. I think the one movie that I don't know if it's one of my favorites. I mean, it is one of my favorites, but the one movie I can always watch, and every time I see it, it's on, I'll watch it, is Tombstone.
Oh, that is a good one.
I don't know why, but I can. Val Kilmer, man, him playing Doc Holliday.
It's him. He's the best part of it. Like when he's like spinning that cup, it's probably one of my favorites.
I mean, and his lines are just they will always stick with me. I'll be your Huckleberry. I mean, for some reason I can sit there. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen Tombstone so many fucking times, but I can just sit there. If it's on, I got Showtime or something like that. If it's on Showtime, I'll sit there and watch it. I don't care if it's not even at the beginning. I'll start right in the middle. I'll just watch it. It's a good movie. And I'm not a big Western fan either. I don't like lots of Westerns, but it's a good movie. I just love it.
Yeah, that actually was another one of the questions was, what movie, even though you've seen it all the time, and even though it's on, like, say, network cable, if it's on, do you still sit and will actually watch? Clearly, it's Tombstone in this case.
Patriot Prime. Have I watched the director's cut? I have not. I didn't know there was a director's cut. I need to check it out because I just see it on. I watch it. It's on Showtime all the time, or some other channel. I'll always watch it on TV. I need to check it out and everything. So going on back to for Transformers. Transformers been around for a long time, 30+ years now. What do you think that Transformers needs to do to prolong that? Go another 30 years. What would you like to see from the series itself? I mean, toys. Or cartoon or movies or anything. What would you like to see?
See, it's so. What do I think needs to happen, and what do I want to happen? I guess are going to be different there. What I'd like to happen, I'd like to see kind of a higher end line, not really high end, but like a collector's grade line or something like that. Something that will keep the collector, the collector adult engaged in it. Okay. I'd say so. It's a question that I think I might have posed, or if maybe not, I planned on posing to SU at one point. Like, so say there was where things were at like a $50 price point, but you lost all the waffles, you got better paint and all that kind of stuff. You kind of a step up from what classics used to be, where it was where everyone kind of points to that as being like the high point of the retail line or kind of the classics line. Like if it was like that, but a couple of steps up as far as paint and durability and quality goes. But we're at like the $50 price point or something like that. Let's say 40-ish price point. I think that would be good. And I think that would be a good thing to help kind of prolong things. I don't think subscription service is the right way to go, because I think that is too limiting and too exclusive, but something that would still show up in your toy stores. I think that would be a good way to kind of keep that part of the fandom activated, really. Yeah. But also, I think as far as what they need to do and kind of what they would have to continue doing is remember that this is that what they're doing now is getting they're hooking the kids in, and they're making sure that there's enough stuff to engage the children or that slightly above children age. So like you're kind of teenagers or a little up until like your preteen kind of time. So I think what they're doing now, unfortunately, is focusing too much on the really young end. So your one-step changers and that kind of stuff, and they tend to flood that stuff in. Or maybe that's just stuff that nobody buys, so it seems like they're flooding that stuff in, and they don't do as much with the older stuff. But I think that is actually part of it, is that they're focusing on the different levels, which I think is the right thing that they have to do. So you have your rescue bots get to little kids, and then you get like your RID stuff. Now it's to focus on the next group, and then I think they needed to get like they need to do that kind of tiering. But I think that there's too much focus on the lower end, which I think is what makes things a little unfortunate. Though I'm not crazy about how they do kind of their fictions in kind of 3 seasons and done, and then we'll do something else. I get why they do it, because you guys have talked about it on SCU. I've talked about it with some of my friends who have some connections over at Hasbro. It's one of those that, like, because of this is the business model that they're going with, the attention span of people at that age is only it only will go for a few years. But I think what they need to do then is to, in conjunction with that, is to try to lock in the older, the more mature viewer or collector in there for the longer runs. They need to have better fiction for that level as well. So they need to have a better fiction, and then kind of, I think that current kind of chug stuff is good for that level, but then also something to get the higher level, because I think the reason that third party really has taken off as well as it has is because that part wasn't there. So it went from like chug to masterpiece, and then or again from a retail standpoint. So like there was a point where third party chug was like $60, $50, $70 ish, right around there, but that did what the retail chug didn't do. It had everything with solid plastic, no waffles, better builds, more complex builds, and that was a part of an untapped market that Hasbro and Takara didn't do, unfortunately. And I think that's what kind of spawned this huge third-party movement, and why it's been as successful as it has been, is because they tapped that part of the market there that unfortunately Hasbro and stuff didn't do. And again, I get why. I can, when you have to please a committee every time, and there's all these health and safety standards that you worry about all the time, it gets really expensive, and the return on investment wouldn't have been good enough. I get it. So I don't fault them for it, but I think that would certainly help to kind of keep things over on that side. And again, if you want to, if they're actually starting to feel the pinch from third-party companies, that's kind of how you would bring that portion of it back. Because there's a lot of people that, myself included, like if there's an official version, I opt for the official version of those things. And a lot of people that are like, they'll get the third-party version until the Takara one comes out, or whatever, if it's an MP, that I think will, knowing that there's a line that is catered to them and their kind of aesthetics that they want, and a retail line, I think they would go there to make sure that you don't have to worry about a third party level QC. You got Hasbro QC, so you know what's going to be good, and if it doesn't, you can always get a replacement one and return it at Target or whatever, and exchange it for the one that works or whatever. It's easy, as opposed to having to ship something overseas to hopefully get the arm back that you need because the arm was assembled backwards. It's so much harder. but something that we again are the realm particularly, but kind of our end of the collection, the collector fandom has gotten very used to. It's not really the right way to do things. It's just something that we have come with and are used to it and think it's fine. That's not really the right way to do it. That's like the fact that your standard way of going through a third party kind of subline. You get your combiners or your Dinobots or whatever. There was a huge trend, and it still kind of does happen to some extent, where like the second release will come with something that fixes something from the first release.
Yeah,
like,
that's happening.
That you're going to get them all, so it's fine to go that way. That's not the right way to do things.
Do it right first way. Yeah. It's not fair to people that buy the stuff the first time, and then you fix the set. With that wheelie, just take that wheelie, the extra info wheelie. How many versions have we got? 4 or 5, I think.
Something
Come on.
Like that.
So the person that bought the first one like 2 years ago, is getting screwed, of a better product because that is kind of shady. I don't want to. Well,
shady is kind of the right word, but it's unfortunate, I guess.
Yeah, but it is kind of shady. Like if you're buying one and then the second version is better because it fixes the problems the first time, you're getting gypped. You're like, well, why didn't you just why wasn't the problems fixed the first time?
Right, exactly. And if this were a Hasbro, they would have gone through so many QC like checks and so many spots in the line that by the time they got there, it should have been addressed already. Again, not the same. Like even though
it don't happen a lot now, it doesn't happen a lot in third party now, but it has happened. It has happened that once in here one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm lucky that I didn't go in on Ollie until the most recent version, like because I'm like. Thankfully, because of all the reviewers and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, this is that thing. Like, same reason I don't have, is it DX9 Dutch or X Transbot Dutch, the Legends Prime? Because those tips pop off every time. I'm like, that is a deal breaker for me. If it can't transform, then I'm not gonna get it, even though it looks good. And then now that there's like a Magic Square or someone else is doing a Legend scale Prime that looks great, so I'm like, I'm good. I'm glad I waited.
Oh
yeah, maybe, I think it is that one. But even that one, like assuming it's not taken from somewhere else, I'm good with that one. If it's in scale, like I'm good with it. So as long as it works right, and that's something that you could in theory hope for, even though I think the Titans Return wheelie also had some QC issues and all that kind of stuff. Not that Hasbro is not known for QC issues as well, but if it costs $10 and then you can just exchange it at the store,
you take it back to the store.
I don't care.
No problem.
I'll deal with that. It's much easier. It didn't cost
with third party. You have to send it over. Sometimes to the retailer. Sometimes you don't. You have to send it right back to the company. And that's across the seas and stuff. That takes it could take weeks. A week or two at least.
And you got to send it to T2RX6 to put it together for you. Like,
exactly. I haven't sent him. I need to, but I haven't. Really, I'm lucky. I don't get a lot of broken stuff. And everything, and I don't, manhandle my stuff. So, so I got one more question for you. Then we'll head out. And once again, this was awesome. Where do you see building up to it in 5 years?
Well, I could see it going. We've already kind of after our first year kind of made some not really adjustments, but we kind of shifted focus a little bit. We used to do kind of as we were getting going and trying to build the audience and there was things that I could learn from it. We did a lot of features on the actual different lines that they put out, and then kind of talk about the different sets that were in the line and what we liked and what the new set that was introduced and all that. Now that we've kind of had that groundwork laid, we started to go more into discussions on actually more kind of topics within the Lego community that, like in theory, like the more the casual might not care as much about, because if they're in it to see what new Marvel sets are coming out, like they don't really care about as much about like the difference between like building by instruction or not building by instruction, or only building by instruction, I should clarify, versus using it by instruction as your set one and then being able to do other things with it, or buying Lego as an investment versus just buying it for fun kind of a thing. Those fans that wouldn't necessarily care about that kind of stuff. But now that we've kind of laid that groundwork and kind of put forth what we think in general, our opinions on those kinds of things from the get-go, then we can kind of now go into more detailed stuff and deeper stuff. So what I would foresee with building up to it again, kind of just further down the line, is kind of more of that kind of stuff and being able to get kind of more that discussion going. And I think that there will be more people that we can kind of pull in, different kinds of fans within Lego that we can maybe bring in to kind of get their opinions on things too. That it'll be cool. So we can go with Lego customizers or people that are known A-balls or they're known kind of they make their own creations of stuff and are known within the community of the kind of special builds that they make and stuff like that. We had a few guests like that, but I would imagine we'll get more. And then I'd like to, again, you get more people that are known for, let's say, building skyscrapers versus building robots or whatever. So have a different perspective on things. And I think for me, it's all about that and kind of getting other perspectives on stuff and learning about those kinds of things that I really enjoy. And I think that stuff like that is going to be, hopefully, will continue on into the future and just kind of seeing different things. And who knows, like when Lego has had kind of shifts and phases in its own lifetime as well. So like there was a specific time where they started doing licensed sets, and then where they got like Star Wars, and then Harry Potter, and then they started doing the Marvel, the Disney sets and all that kind of stuff. So there are different phases, and then I think Lego's going to continue to evolve like that if they want to stay as successful as they are. And I think that will always give us topics that we can cover, certainly.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much, man. That was awesome. I've not learned. I'm not big into Legos. You know, I would love to. I've asked my wife if we wanted to build some before, and she just, you know, she doesn't collect anything. She don't want to do anything like that. But so if you want to tell them where you're at, you know, all that stuff. I know it's kind of cliche for the ROC to say that, but you know, just tell them where, you know, they can find you, all that good stuff and everything.
Yeah, no problem. As Deluxe had mentioned before, I'm on the Building Up to It podcast. It's a Lego podcast on the Bricks on the Dollar YouTube channel. They go live on YouTube at Friday morning, and then they end up on iTunes whenever Ace puts it up. Usually later that day on the Friday, they usually end up over on iTunes and your audio platforms there. You'll frequently find me on Verbally Challenged with Hurricane BX whenever there's a WWE pay-per-view that goes through, and usually, so I think that means Royal Rumble's in a couple weeks. Yeah, I'm sure he and I are going to be talking. Yeah, well, he and I will be talking then. So if you are a fan of WWE products, so you can check that out there. Also check out Verbally Challenges. It's the newest really show on the Cool Table Network. Yep. And then you can very frequently find me asking questions on Nerd Rage. Try to do every week. It hasn't happened as much since the baby, but it's at least 3 times a month, if not every week. Yeah. So you'll find me asking questions there as well. And then other than that, lurking in the Facebook groups, I do manage the ROC blog, which hasn't had a lot of entries.
Yeah, it was started strong for a little bit, but now it's not.
It was, and then and I think that life got in the way for a lot of people, and then I haven't been able. I had a lot of stuff planned and a lot of things kind of in like phase 1 and needing it to get to kind of phase 3 before I would publish it, and then we had the baby, and I haven't really had as much time.
Life happened. No, that's cool.
Exactly. Like there's a lot of stuff that I've been meaning to do and haven't had a chance to. So that is just one of them.
Cool. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you very much, man. That was very fun. You're welcome back anytime. Like I said, but if anytime you have time, you have a little free time, 30 minutes or something, definitely reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you, you know, and get you back.
Yeah, man, I would love to. Like I said, I've got a series of questions that I had for you. Yeah. So we will get to those next time for sure.
We definitely will. I'll get you back.
I will keep those there, and I'll just keep it going.
Awesome.
Just because, every time I hear you on SU, is something I want to ask. That like, since you're, I always feel bad that you're like the only one that is like. And Justin to some extent, and even Greg to some extent, but like that is standing up for the retail stuff.
Mainline, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, there's times I'm like, man, I'd love to be on there just to kind of back you up and to kind of give my opinion on things, but you know that's the dynamic of the show. So I guess
that's what makes it, you know, fun. You know, and what right as we was talking, I thought of a discussion question I'm going to ask on my channel. So thank you very much. I'm gonna ask that. So anyway, but once again, thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure. You know, I've known you a couple years now, and you know, you're just awesome, and I love hanging and talking with you and everything. And I'd love to do this more often. It'd be pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah. I appreciate you reaching out. And again, that's your flexibility with the schedule. I would love to do this because even from before we met at TFCon Chicago that one time, like you and I have been chatting online for a long time prior. So it's a pleasure. Yeah. It's been a pleasure to see your channel grow and to see your presence grow. Oh, so kudos to you.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Go down and hit that like button, you know, all that stuff, sub, whatever, it helps the channel and everything. And I just say thank you very much. I love doing this, and I hope y'all are really liking this because I really love doing this stuff. I get to know people, and their perspectives of the collecting world. So I guess I will see you on the next around 30 minutes. And as always, Hell House Bro, and good night, folks. Everybody. Stop broadcast.